Hi, everyone. I'm so excited for you to meet the most amazing Emily Zarecki, who actually graduated from the Rise Advocates Academy. My name is Diana Patton, and I help professional women overcome challenges, adversities, and trauma to activate their voice and to use their voice to advocate for themselves and for diversity, equity, inclusion. And Emily came on board, and I want you to get to know Emily. I want you to know what she's gone through. I want you to hear her story, and I want you to be inspired to figure out how you yourself can learn how to take the time to assess the most important aspect of you. So, with that being said, Emily, I'd love for you to take time to introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about what you do. I always like to say, so what occupies your time during the day or night? So tell us about yourself.
Yes, so I am in public relations, marketing, communications type roles. The majority of my career has been in that, and specifically within the healthcare field. So most recently, I was working with an agency locally, and our focus was on senior care and helping those providers, really grow their organizations, really by defining, the why they do what they do, and really communicating the value that they bring to, patients and families.
What important work, especially having come out of the pandemic. How was that? What was the narrative for you all in that time period? What were some of the things that you brought to your company that you were able to bring to them to get through something like this?
Exactly. This was such a hard time. And we know for families that are caring for a loved one at home, whether it's, in their home or they're in a facility, the pandemic was so incredibly challenging. And we had the great opportunity to, work with our providers who are our clients and just help them really communicate the value of what they do. And if they provide care within a facility type setting, how they do that in a safe way. And just the focus on, proactive upfront communication, especially when families couldn't see their loved ones.
Right.
It was extremely hard. And just the focus on over communicate was really the theme of, communicating with those families, helping, be that bridge, especially when, their kids, other loved ones couldn't come and visit them.
Yeah. Emily, I knew I loved you, but I really, really, having a mom, and as the time of this recording, my mom went through a difficult transition. My mom would always say, I'm going to go take care of the elderly people. My mom's 83. I said, well, who are the elderly people, Mom? The 90-year-olds. Okay.
Right.
She's taking care of them. And so she's always been that caregiver. And then to see my mom in the hospital was the most difficult, and helping her just with basic needs, going to the bathroom. And now she's in a skilled care facility again at the time of this recording. And I just am so grateful for telling me we don't know yet, but what we do know is this, communication is key. So and not keeping people in the dark. My gosh. I mean, it's like, you really have to make certain that you help people understand what it's like to be human.
Yes, exactly. And so many times I think from, all the years I've worked in healthcare from the acute care setting, and I'm certainly not a healthcare provider myself, but really, witnessing others that are, in the hospitals and just remembering that's a person in that bed, that it's somebody's mother, sister, friend. It's not, so often they refer to, the ailment, that if it's somebody who's there for a knee replacement, it's the knee in bed one. It almost strips the humanity out of it. And just remembering that's a person there. And, what they need, what their family members need, communication is just at the heart of all of it.
So, and you just mentioned this, and, of course, we were talking, but we didn't really talk about that. We were going to dive in, but I just love the organicness of when we have conversations, because it just means so much to me when I was going to the skilled care facility, that when they said, oh, we haven't had this unit come in yet. And I go, you mean my mom? Her name is Joni Pinsky. And she is a real amazing person. And she's coming to your facility. Who will be the person that will greet her with a smile when she
Mhm.
comes to be with you? Because that's going to be her home.
Yes,
You
and that's
know,
going to be her first impression of that new home.
right.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
So
yes.
that was something that I actually had a conversation about. So,
Yeah.
thank you so much for saying that. And really, because I think all of us can learn when we are, whether you are on the provider side or whether you are on the patient side, it's really important to infuse that humanity. So thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for all you do. And I know this about you, that you yourself have gone through a difficult experience on both sides, right? Because of your husband. And then now with you going through what you recently, would you share a little bit of your story about what, how that experience was like for you?
Yes, yes. So years ago, it was almost 13 years ago, my first husband struggled with mental health issues. And I mean, he was doing everything he needed to do to, take care of himself, seeing the doctor, taking the right medications. And in July of 2009, he took his life. And here I was at 35,
Mm.
unexpected to be, on my own as, a solo parent
Yeah.
of then an 8-year-old and twins who were 4.
Mm.
Just, I mean, I was just, in the dark, I think, for so long, and really focused on the kids more than myself. I really just knowing, I didn't want this to set them down a bad path. So I was so focused on making sure they were okay while I was figuring out, the, are we going to stay in this house? Are we going to move?
Right.
I'm working full time. And I mean, I look back now, and there was just, years of that time frame where it was just a blur,
Right.
and just trying to, keep moving one step forward, and, focusing on, getting up when I'd want to just stay in bed all day, but knowing I've got those 3 kids depending on me,
Yeah.
and feeling like what a challenge it was. And, over the years, as the kids got older, and, I really spent some time, in counseling and working with a grief counselor through all of that, and, advance a number of years. And, I'm helping to care for my mom as she was going through cancer. It was, a year-long tough battle. And then, just a year later, I find myself taking my first steps into a cancer center as a patient myself.
Mm.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer in late October of 2020.
How did that come about, Emily? I mean, now listening to your story, it's so traumatic to
Yeah.
have to deal with that and the stress that you had to endure to deal with
Mhm.
that. And then you what? Go to the doctor's office.
Mhm.
What, for
Yes.
a
So,
routine mammogram or a routine?
yes, it was a routine mammogram in the middle of October.
Mm.
Went for the mammogram, and I got that call back that said, we need to do additional testing because you have dense tissue. We can't see anything. And this was the second year in a row that happened. And so I wasn't worried at first, because I thought, okay, this happened the year before. I went in for a follow-up mammogram. Everything was fine. So I had a little bit of somewhat comfort in the fact, like, okay, I did this before.
Right.
Here it's happening again. Maybe we need to think about a different way to use diagnostic tools on people with
Mhm.
dense tissue, but that was like way far in the back of my mind.
Right.
But so I was
Right.
thinking, okay, let's get to this next one. They
Mhm.
decide they want to do an ultrasound this time. And again, I'm thinking it's going to be okay. And I
Yeah.
even had a radiologist looking at the image saying, I think it's a, benign mass. We obviously will have to do a biopsy, but I think, 90% you're going to be fine.
Right.
And then I have to go back a few days later for the biopsy, and then wait for the results. And that waiting is so hard. And even though I medical terminology is not a strength of mine or a skill I have. As soon as I got the notification, your test result is ready. What do I do but open up my phone and, log in to get that test result? And I'm scrolling through it, trying to, I think, find that, a phrase that either says test negative or
Right.
nothing found is what I was looking for.
Right.
And yeah, just kind of scrolling through, and I'm like, okay, I think it's okay. I see a couple things on here I'm not sure about, but it was almost like my mind couldn't process it.
Yeah.
So, so I thought, okay, I think everything's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And it was the next day when I saw on, my phone that my doctor's office was calling, and, I saw it was their number. I fully expected a woman who I talked to a lot at the front office. I expected her voice. And so I answered the phone. And when it was my nurse practitioner, my mind just was going all over the place, because I thought, why is she calling me? I'm not supposed to hear from her. I'm supposed to be hearing everything's fine. We'll see you next year.
Right.
And it took a couple minutes for, my head to stop swimming and for me to stop her and say, did you just say I have cancer? And she said, yes.
Wow. Emily, I have to acknowledge, first of all, you telling the story about your husband was so challenging, and I'm so sorry to hear that. And my heart just goes out to you, especially then, was it you said your mother,
my mom,
everything she was going through, and now you. And so I just leaning into your story just makes me go, wow.
Yeah.
And how hard that must have been.
Yes.
So then what would you do next? Did you then, were you okay, yep, all right? Or did you tell your family, or how did you proceed then?
Yeah. So I hung up the phone and just kind of sat. I was, sitting in my, home office desk. And so I just kind of sat there for a second. And I mean, it was definitely, a state of shock. I went upstairs and told my husband, and I was trying to be quiet because our kids were, doing school from home at that time. So I was trying to be quiet, but I told him what I had just heard. And he said, but I thought it was negative. I thought everything was going to be okay. And I was like, but it's not. When we opened the test result again, and there it was. I had scrolled right by it the day before, but in big bold letters, invasive ductal carcinoma. I mean, I could have seen that the day before, but I just don't think my brain would let me process it. So I scrolled right on by it. I was like,
I can understand that, because if it doesn't say you have cancer, it's called blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't want to see. I would go, oh, okay, well, so that's interesting.
Yes. So there was just so much of just, I think, being in a state of shock and not really knowing what to do. Just trying to wait until I, knew a little bit more before telling the kids, just of, all that they had been through.
Of course.
From, losing their dad, and they were so very close to my mom as well. So I just thought, okay, I need to kind of act like everything's okay, while inside I'm just, have so many uncertainties and so many questions, and knew I just needed to wait till I could see the oncologist and, meet him for the first time and find out, okay, what am I dealing with, and what's next?
Yeah. And you did that. And
I
then
did that, yes.
you took some time with some amazing, you said you had some amazing people on your team helping you. And now I think you have some news, right? Like recently, recently as the time of this recording.
Exactly. That I am cancer-free.
Hallelujah.
Yes, a definite hallelujah. I was, our doctor, I mean, he was so great at, explaining, the different, I didn't even realize there were different types of breast cancer. So there was a lot of learning up front, but he kept, telling me the process and reassuring me. And he said, if we go through this process, it's going to be a year-long treatment for the type that you have. So it will be a full year, But if we follow these steps, we have to start with chemo, which my heart sunk when, I heard I had to have chemo. So he said, we're going to start with chemo, we'll do surgery, and then we'll finish the year with more kind of immunotherapy and an anti-cancer drug. And by this time next year, you'll be done with treatment, and you should be, I remember him saying, we're looking at, if we follow this process, a 95% cure rate. He said, now I'm not saying we can treat you, but this is curing it.
Yeah.
So I was really reassured at the beginning, just from, his calm demeanor. He's very, very smart. I had, my whole trust in him. And I thought, okay, it's scary. I don't even know what I'm stepping into, but if you're telling me this is what I have to do, and it starts with chemo, let's do it. I'm not even going to think about, seeing reactions that other people have gone through. I'm just going to do it, because I know I have to get to the other side.
So Emily, what do you think for those people who are recent, some people might be watching this recording and they're going to go, I just was recently diagnosed, or they're moving through it, or they're right at the end. What would you say would be 2 to 3 things that you would say, this is how I dealt with it and got to this side? What would you say those 3 things are?
Yeah, I definitely say the support from family, friends was huge. Just the, emotional support I got from, my family, here in our home. But also so many people are stepping forward saying, what can I do?
Yeah.
And, for those people that, said something specific, I want to bring you all dinner, or I'm bringing over just a basket of stuff you might need. And I mean, it was just so thoughtful, so helpful. And it wasn't just at the beginning, it was kind of throughout my treatment. So having that support system is vital, not only for the cancer patient, but those that are living with them, their spouse, any children, because they're going to need that support as well. Another thing I found so helpful, both as I was stepping into life as a widow at age 35, as well as a cancer patient, is just the community that's out there. And it's the community groups that are, out on Facebook and social media. I got connected with an incredible group when I was newly widowed, called Soaring Spirits. And the support that you can get from people who are going in it at the same time, or they've been through it, is so powerful. And in both cases, there were just deep connections that I made with people that I didn't meet for a long time. And even with the breast cancer group, there was a question somebody asked. I think it's an all Ohio breast cancer group. And somebody asked, where's everybody from? And so I responded and said, oh, I'm in Sylvania, Ohio, near Toledo. And another young woman responded and she said, hey, I saw that you're in Sylvania. I'm in Perrysburg. And that started a friendship that just back and forth. We were diagnosed. It was within days of one another, of the same type of cancer. She was going to be going through treatment. We were doing it at different hospitals, but our treatment approach was the same. So it was the same chemo drugs, then facing surgery. So we would just message each other back and forth, how are you doing? I had my first chemo treatment first. So I would tell her, what I was experiencing in terms of side effects. And throughout treatment, it was just asking one another, back and forth of, how are you doing today? Or, nothing tastes good. What's working for you? And we ended up meeting this summer in person. And it was so great. So we've, developed now this wonderful friendship that we get together every once in a while and, check in with each other. And had I not had this, I would never have met her. So, and so many other people that I've, connected with, both, the widowed community, as well as, breast cancer survivors. That sense of community and people who truly get what you're going through is just so, so important.
You mentioned the two things that a gentleman by the name of, I really think his name is Daniel, I'm not sure, but he wrote about the blue zone diet. And he said the people that live the longest, where they live the longest and how and why, healthy,
Yeah.
support, community,
Yes.
two keys. And so I just feel anyone listening to this, it's vital that
Vital.
you reach out and you get that support. You cannot go it alone.
You
Which,
can't. You can't. You need
yes,
that support, the guidance of people who have already been through it, that kind of encouragement and seeing like, okay, there's somebody who's maybe 3 years cancer free. You see their hair has returned. You're like, okay, that's where I see hope. And that's where I'm seeing a future for me that I'll get there. Right now it's really hard, but I can see the hope in other people and the encouragement and taking part in the Race for the Cure event, here in Toledo was so powerful.
yeah.
And people I didn't know were, walking by, congratulating me. How long have you been cancer free? And at the time I was like 5 months.
Yes.
So, and meeting people who are 20 years cancer free
Yeah.
and longer. And there's just so much hope in
Yeah.
that, and seeing other people and realizing like, okay, it's going to take some time. And I've had, my husband tell me, so many times when I'm frustrated that I can't exercise like I used to, he's like, you need to remember what your whole body was through,
Yes.
and others, and
Yeah.
reassuring me and telling me you've got to give yourself time.
For sure. And
Yeah.
you are Emily Storm. That was your
That's
name.
right. I am the storm.
Is the storm. So watch out. The storm is coming your way.
That's
So,
right. And I think that would be kind of the third point is,
mm,
going into it, I knew a positive attitude was going to be important,
mhm.
even though I was facing something I had no idea what was in front of me. But I remember early on, I was like, okay, I need some kind of mantra as I'm
Right.
starting this. And, my son talked about getting those bracelets with, some kind of statement on it. And I saw this quote and I said, there's my mantra. And of course, my son looked at it and he says, I think that's a little bit long. I'm like, not the whole quote. So the quote is, fate whispered, you can't handle the storm. And
Mhm.
I whispered back, I am the storm. So that
I
became
know
my
that.
mantra was, I am the storm.
I know. I think everybody who's listening to this got a little chills. I know I did. I was like, I know that's right. Drop the mic. Let me take the mic and drop it.
Just drop
That
it.
was amazing. I love that so much, which brings me to this point. Like you then sought out the Rise Advocates Academy.
I
What
did.
is it that drew you in? And I think that I believe that there might be one thing, but I want to hear what was it? What was it that got you?
Yeah, there were a couple things, definitely. I think what I was dealing with at the time. So I was working. I worked through treatment, and as I got past surgery, I was just in this place of, I don't love the work that I'm doing. I had wonderful clients and I absolutely loved working with them, but just the work I was doing at the agency, I thought I don't love what I'm doing. I'm not in a, communications type role. I'm not writing. I think that's why I went into public relations, was just I could do something with my love of writing.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm not writing. And just the environment I was in at the agency, so much had changed. It was, to be perfectly honest, was really toxic. And I just thought, okay, this isn't for me. I've got to find something else. And I think at the time, my confidence was getting chipped away. And, I'm seeing on Instagram, our mutual friend, the beautiful Rhonda Sewell, I would see her posts, and she kept posting about this woman, Diana Patton. And I, then check out her page, and I was like, I need to know her. There was I was being drawn to you. And I was like, there's just something in what she's saying in her posts. I listened to different videos that you have. I'm like, I need to know her somehow. And I think I first reached out on Facebook, was like, do you do any personal coaching? Because that's where I was feeling like I need this help. And then I was in, you offered a master class. And so at lunch one day, I was, watching through Zoom, and everything you talked about, from the importance of the personal development to professional development, and that understanding the why and your purpose, and then how you can, translate that into advocating for something. I'm like, I need this.
Mm.
I need all of it. And I know I was first coming to it from that place of, I know I just need to, build myself back up and find out that what is that calling of mine, and what do I want to be doing with my career? I still have many years ahead of me to keep working.
Sure.
So I was just drawn to it from so many different ways,
I
and
love
it
that.
was everything and more.
I love hearing that story. And Emily, I believe that you were receiving the text messaging services that
I
I had.
was,
How
yes.
long were you taking receiving the text messaging? And for those listening in, you can be a part of the tier 1 Rise Advocates membership. And a part of that is these every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m. Although sometimes I was a little tardy the last couple of weeks on the 7 a.m. on Friday. But to do the text messaging, inspiring, encouraging, and motivating text. How
Yes.
long had you had that?
I'm going to say it was about a month or so, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And,
Okay,
just seeing those, I'd be driving my daughters to school, and either as I was pulling in the parking lot or heading back, I'd hear the sound of the text. I'm like, oh, there's the message. I have to
yes.
check it as soon as I get back. And so many of those messages really resonated, and it just kept furthering that this is the right thing. This is something I really need to, I just need to do.
Yeah. And I just believe in that Rumi quote, what you seek is seeking you. I've been
Yes.
seeking you. I just know that you are the Emily that I've been seeking.
Oh,
And you are the individual I believe has a story that needs to be heard. And so many people, you are just now getting into your real life. And everything that's happened to you is for such a time as this. And everything that you have gone through is for you. As painful as it is, as difficult as it's been, it's
right.
for you to do and to live your own most amazing life. So through the Rise Advocates Academy, what were some of the things that just really, maybe 1 or 2 things that really were helpful to you, that helped you see life differently? I always tell people we have to have a different lens. Right?
Yes.
We see our lives, see our world, and stripping away all the stuff that really doesn't matter.
Yes. Yes. It's so true. There are a couple of things that I keep going back to, and I've got my little binder here, and I will refer back to the notes.
Okay.
And there were a couple of exercises. One was understanding, your upper limit. And as we were really diving into, I mean, that was huge.
Right.
And as soon as I read that first one, I was like, there it is.
Mhm.
There it is. It's that I'm not worthy of this. It's
Mhm.
the, imposter syndrome. And I think I remember telling you, as I would look through job descriptions,
Yeah.
I would,
Big one.
think, oh, this could be something. And I'd look through, I mean, some of those job descriptions are so lengthy. Not one person could ever do all of
Do
that,
any of that stuff.
any of it. But I'd look at that, and at first I'd be like, okay, this looks good. And then I was like, oh no, I can't do all that. No. And so many times it would be the no, this, and the I can't this. And as we were talking then about the book, I have it here as well, The Switch on Your Brain,
Yeah.
and that
Mhm.
brain detox.
Yeah.
And I would set my phone alarm for a couple points during the day. And this was a very condensed part of it. But as soon as I'd hear that alarm, and I'd start to think of, reading those job descriptions and thinking, nope, I can't do that, I immediately would tell myself, I can't. And then I was like, oh no, girl, you can.
Yeah.
So I almost got to the point after a couple of weeks, I'd hear that alarm. It would go off and be like, yes, I can. I can do that. I wasn't even saying that I can't. I was just in realizing how important that perspective and that
Yes.
focus is. Just as I wanted that mantra and that positive attitude going into the unknown of treatment, I was like, I need that, in my life, to, immediately stop, editing myself as a a very Diana phrase,
Mhm.
don't edit yourself, that I was, constantly saying no, I can't do this, or but if I do it, what if?
Mhm.
What if I don't do well, or what if I fail? And then I would start to remember that quote of, what if I fail? And, the response is, but what if you fly? And so I was like, okay, I need this whole just shift in my mentality. And so those are a couple of things that really stuck. And another exercise that I keep going back to was the taking photos, looking at photos of yourself from different points during your life.
Life's
And
breadcrumbs.
really remember, I love that exercise, and really thinking through at, the one picture I had of me is a 9-year-old,
Right.
laying on a beach with my cousin,
Mhm.
and,
Oh,
what
yeah,
was
that's a
going on
good
in my
photo.
life.
I see it in my mind. Yeah.
And then thinking about, me in high school, and then in
Mhm.
my, early career, and then currently.
Mhm.
And I was like, I had this great aha moment of that 9-year-old and what I'm looking for now. Those two people are really similar, where the two in the center were always
Ah,
questioning and
ah,
saying, I
all
can't
the
do that.
feels.
I can't do that. Or if I do that, what if this? I mean, there were so many times I was questioning and
Mhm.
not being confident in myself. And then I thought, now that I've gone through, a job change,
Mhm.
the process of, looking for jobs, and, having all of these kind of learnings, and, really taking that deep assessment of myself, has just put me in such an incredible place of where, because when I would always think about, what's your calling, and I would always think of that as more my career. What am I called to do in my
Yeah.
job? And I'm like, that's maybe not it. I mean, sure, you want to be happy and fulfilled in your work, but I discovered a whole different calling that was related to my, cancer journey, and my, journey as a widow,
Mhm.
and where I can find myself, you know, find more purpose, and live that purpose and that why through some advocacy.
I just love that you are seeing that connection. And so, what is it that you see for yourself? You mentioned advocacy.
Yes.
How do you see yourself? Because a part of the whole Rise Advocates Academy, as we said, is, activating it. So you've activated that voice, and now you're going to be using it.
Yes.
You're advocating for yourself because this is a gender stereotype that we women don't believe that we can do these things, but you now know you can.
Yes.
But so, what are the next things we're going to be seeing Emily stepping into, speaking up about?
Yes. So I am going to be stepping into the world of author as I write my
Woo!
story. I have decided I want to really write the story of, the my cancer journey. Kind of the subtext of the working title is the blessings and the silver linings that I found throughout that journey that I wasn't expecting.
Mhm.
And then I also want to, as I'm telling my story, advocate and, use that really as a platform in
Mm.
advocating for, the right diagnostic tools
Mm.
for women, particularly since it's my situation with dense tissue, that, your standard mammogram, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And why should we go through a test, so you've got the time, the money, the resources, and you get a call back that says the radiologist couldn't see anything, we need to bring you back? There's that, then the anxiety, and oh
Of
my
course.
gosh, do I have something? Did they see something but they need to, see something better? So I said, is there anything out there yet of somebody advocating for a new, diagnostic standards for women with dense tissue, so we're not, using up a mammogram that isn't going to work for us anyway?
Yeah.
And just finding out where I can tell my story and advocate for change.
Yeah. That is, I've got all the feels. I keep getting them. I'm like, my body's like all like just feeling everything because this is exactly what we're talking about. Melinda Gates wrote the book, The Moment of Lift. You have had your moment and you're lifting and you're rising. And the beauty of it all is that we're together,
Yes.
and we're continuing to be together because you're now a certified Rise advocate. And we are continuing being, and you are now a Rise Advocates member, right?
Yes.
Because now we're into the membership part because we need to continue to support. I want to continue to support you in your work, and I believe that you will be an inspiration to other women who are really challenged in their jobs. Some women are really like, I don't know what to do. I mean, and
Yes.
I don't like this job.
Mhm.
And you're telling them, but there's hope on the other side.
There is
You
hope
don't
on the other
have
side.
to,
Yeah.
you
You don't
know?
have to stay in that, really, taking that time and assessing what are your true talents
Mm,
and what do you have to offer that's in need out there. I mean,
absolutely.
the talents and going through the class with other women. I mean, we just developed such an incredible bond.
Yeah.
And just there's strength in that, and then lifting each other up. And as other women were talking about their struggles, and we're right there in support and saying, you got this, and there's a way that you can really turn what's challenging you, what doesn't seem right, into a new path that
Yeah.
may not be visible right now, but as you start to work toward it, it just comes into clearer vision.
Yes. Oh, Emily, you are an inspiration to me.
Oh,
And
thank
I can feel every single aspect of this new revival,
you. Yes.
and just really this new level that you're at. Your eyes are vibrant, and it's like your energy is, percolating high. And I really believe that when we root out any anger, remember the wolf, which wolf are you
Yes.
feeding? And if you're feeding anger, anger comes from you. Or if you're feeding resentment, it comes from you. But what you're feeding is compassion. You're feeding hope, and you're feeding love. Because, oh gosh, so many people are going to be so inspired by your story in your book. I can't wait to read it. And I can't wait to I see this having this little big party, you changing lives
Yes.
because of your experiences. So many women are going to be able to understand how to read these. I look down because I have a notebook of all of my tests, and I've had those dense tissue breast
Yes.
tissue. And I don't know what it all means and what do I do from there. So I'm already thanking you in advance for your advocacy for women like myself who need
Absolutely.
someone like you to speak up. And so we're going to continue to encourage women to do that. So closing us out, is there a final word that you have to say to anyone that is listening to this right now and is wanting to have one last morsel of hope? What would you say to them?
I would say, take that next step in, doing what you need to do. If it's, absolutely, I would, 100% advocate for the Rise Advocates program. It's amazing, the wonderful Diana, but and that just that real process of digging in and doing that, some of that real hard, intense
Yeah,
work. But I was so glad, because I think we've both said, we've gone to different conferences and classes, and you
right.
you learn about these things, and you're like, that sounds really good, and maybe you start doing it and then you get back into your old ways.
Yeah,
But just taking that time to really dig in and understand, either what are those things that may be holding you back,
mhm,
what is it that you want, if think there aren't any obstacles, what would you want to be doing,
right.
thinking of your skills and your talents. And there's so much power in really stepping back and assessing your strengths, and really digging into some of the difficulties that
Yeah,
that you've been through, and realizing, what has this meant. I always say there's a reason for everything, and some things are hard to see that reason, whether it's the death of a spouse, death of a parent
yeah.
with cancer, or going through some kind of trial yourself. But thinking like, I'm supposed to do something with this. I mean, I remember that even with after my husband died, was like, with the mental health advocacy, I'm like,
Mhm.
I've got to do something with this. And I think that's part of where that sense of, not only what do I do with this, but really making it part of your why. Have always found that to be so important, of just really understanding the why you want to do something, and just
That's so
going
good.
back to those values. And
Yes.
yes, so I would say just, take that time, do that work. And, as you say, take some time for yourself, that morning, whether it's morning or evening, kind of whatever works for you, but really be committed
Right.
to that time to give to yourself, and write, even if you don't think you're a writer. The journaling is,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just can help you work through, any issues you're having, or you can go back and realize, you're celebrating,
Yes.
some tough thing that you got through, when you can look back and read,
Yeah.
what you've written, and, it's your story.
Yes, that's the beauty of this course, is because there's by the time you get done, you could probably just take your stuff out of there and just write your book, because you already have done so much of the work. So
Yes.
I'm so grateful that you were a part of the Rise Advocates Academy. I'm so grateful that you are now a certified Rise Advocate. And I just want to encourage all of you out there, if you are wanting to get signed up, go to riseadvocates.com. You can reserve your spot. We do classes 4 times a year, where we'll have this 8-week class. And it's amazing. And I know this is going to be a global initiative. And I feel like one year that you, my friend, I'm just going to go ahead and declare it, will be
Okay.
on the stage with me speaking at one of these Rise Advocates conferences, I hope in New York City, where
Love
we'll
it.
have Michelle Obama and Melinda Gates there with us.
Yes. Just
And
put it out there.
I'm putting it
It's
out
out
there.
there now.
Put it out there. And for those of you who really can't do the course, but you want support, you can become a tier 1 Rise Advocate. And all you have to do is, again, you can go to riseadvocates.com, and then you can go ahead and reserve your spot. And then if you want to send me an email, you can send me an email at diana@dianarpatton.com, and you can learn more. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you so much. And we will see each other on the next conference, or the next check-in on our Certified Rise Advocates Tier 2 membership.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Take
Thank
care, everyone.
you.